Go for it.
Hello all, and welcome back to the BBA Today podcast. This is episode number 97 according to Spotify, 98 if you count our YouTube video last week. I'll let the debate rage on our can boards this week as far as what episode number this is, but this is Imber, the GM of the San Fernando Bears. I'm joined on a late night episode here with the GM of the Bikini Grill, Ron Collins. Ron, what have you been up to in the little mini hiatus?
Oh, first I was digging down deep into all sorts of arcane things. I posted some pieces of it as far as that's concerned on Discord, looking at starting pitchers and pitch things, and then I was digging down deep into all sorts of weird esoterics around shortstops because of the conversation that you had with me last time we were together about Keith Williams, and that's how my brain works. Somebody asks me a question, and I've got to go and waste a lot of time looking at things. But then for now, I mean, we've got the big news is we have another sim here, and I'm coming into this completely blind. I just now downloaded everything. I know that everyone else is just a little bit ahead of me. I would ask what you have been doing during this time period, but I have a feeling that it has to do with sitting on the edge of your seat waiting to know whether you're going to the hospital or not.
Yeah, there's been more excitement around that than there has been last. Although I explained the connection of the two to my wife at some point last week, and at one point tonight she screamed at me from another room, "Commish on the sim yet?" And the baby now is allowed to come.
Well, there you go. There you go. That is a good child right there. That's all you got to say.
I couldn't be more thrilled to get the chance to do this podcast and get my Rule 5 list together and talk about some off-season activity. There's only been 2 sims since we last recorded, but they were 2 very consequential sims.
They were.
We talked last time about how no free agents were going to sign.
Yeah, and none did, right? I mean, not a single one signed.
Yeah, that's one, I guess.
No, that was quite cool to see so many big names hit on the first one. And I think Louisville did a big job picking up a couple of really important, if you kind of called that, I think, where Louisville was probably going. That's a big deal.
Yeah, and then David Molina didn't quite get, I think I was speculating 6 years, $110 million last time. He got like 590 something, so like 1 year short of what I was talking about, but huge average per year. And he was signed by the same team in Rocky Mountain that also signed Isam, shortstop.
Rocky.
Huge difference.
Yep. Rosenblatt, Rocky Mountain Rosenblatt. Justin is a guy who comes in and makes splashes, so that is both surprising and not surprising to me. Molina's after that signing, I thought that was an interesting signing, and I don't have any issues with it whatsoever. But if I were his agent, I would have taken the Bikini package over the Rosenblatt package, but it would have been questionable. It's a reasonable selection by Out of the Park and by Molina in that sense. I just thought 78 for 4 with the option to get back into free agency if things went well would have been something that would be more attractive, but that's just my brain thinking out loud. Rosenblatt, Justin is going to be fantastic before it's all said and done in Rocky Mountain, and I think he has the advantage in Rocky Mountain / Rosenblatt. Roseblatt. I don't have it in front of me. I think he has a similar advantage over Brandon Slock taking over as Shoeless has in Brooklyn, in that both of them have fresh starts and don't have the momentum built around and the feeling built around their individual teams. So Justin is coming in and ripping a Band-Aid off and doing some things right away, just as Shoeless is in Brooklyn. So those are really fun to watch.
Yeah, he's got a rock solid Hall of Famer on his team. His first baseman, whose name is escaping me right now, but
Yeah.
gotta take some shots while that guy's still in his prime. I think he's like 35. But,
Yeah, there you go.
so he front loaded those deals, and that's what makes the finances a little more palatable. He's clearly planned out his spending by year, and I think he was able to unload. Was it Flannery, or he had a starting pitcher?
Yeah. Right.
Justin's got the ability to do more.
Yep, there you go. Yeah, he was actually talking about, since they moved Flannery, he might be getting jumping back into the free agent market, and so it'll be very interesting to see what happens in the Frontier this year. It's still quite early. It's only 2 sims into the off season, and I'm already getting excited about seeing what is going to happen there for the actual season for Rocky Mountain Rosenblatt, the Bombers. Should be fun. So tell me, I'm literally just now kind of beginning to scan through the file. What all have I missed? What are the big newses here? I saw we were chatting just before we started recording, and I thought that I saw a big Nashville deal. I know the low part. What did Nashville get back in return?
Nashville got back more than anything else. They were right up against the cap.
Yep.
By trading
There you go.
95-ish on Stats Plus. That's usually a little off. So he could add now. I think he might just wait until mid-year.
Yeah, I was going to say, in retrospect, it made sense. The chat that we had, full disclosure chat we had just before we launched, we were talking about. You asked me who I thought was traded, and I went low, and that had, for a different reason. As I think about it further, I look at it and I think, yeah, the Nashville farm system is not quite as deep in grade A beef as it has been, but it is quite deep in good starting pitchers. So it makes sense that if he's going to move somebody, if Nashville is going to move somebody, it would be a pitcher in that frame. So, and I'm literally just thinking through this and making it up as I go. So I would assume that Ortiz or Ramirez will be joining the starting rotation here next year, and I don't know if they've got options left anyway. So maybe there was a push there too.
Yeah, he's got Basanta.
There you go.
Basanta in AAA. Ortiz was a 3-win pitcher two years ago. You want to call 2061 2 years ago at this point?
There you go.
Yeah, I think Ortiz is going to be out of options.
Yeah, I was going to say Basanta, I think, has options. Yeah, he's got 2 options left. So. Yeah, he'll probably have to spend some time in AAA to work on his defense at pitching.
And then the trade return, Gracia, who was the 8th pick of the draft last year. And he is still 19 years old, actually just turned 19 in September. Did he actually play for the Liberty last year? He did pitch for the Liberty last year.
Okay, yeah.
And he's already a 5.67 current rating with potential of 7. So he's the next Nebraska winner in the pipeline that Nashville has lined up. But 19 years old, 5.67. He's going to marinate for at least another year, I would think, in the minors. So Chad does subtract from his talent base this year and make himself a little more vulnerable. It's like a Twin Cities team that's added, very aggressive all offseason.
There you go.
Nashville's probably still the favorite, but a lot of offseason left.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I would, no matter what, I would make Nashville the favorite unless some lightning strikes multiple times in places. I mean, even Louisville, who had a very nice first free agency sim, only still needs this more than half of a real pitching staff to be dominant. They'll be good. But like you said, there's still an awful lot of the offseason to go, so they could add another 3 or 4 guys. I don't know exactly where their finances are right this minute. I'm sure they are still pretty good. They were quite low on payroll even with signing, I think, who is it, Brown and Akers. They still should have some pad left. So
yeah, 71 stats plus.
There you go.
A lot. But one thing we'll talk about eventually is there's not really anything left, especially on the pitching side. There's a few relievers as far as the starters go. It's mostly picked over. But before we move past the trade, I do want to pause too and Sean should probably feel disrespected here because it's all about Nashville, but I do like Phoenix going and getting one of the best pitchers in the league. We talked last time about how they might be a 90-win team just from bouncing back from last year and then graduating some players up from Toledo. Now they add Lolo. They're scary. They might be the favorites in Frontier. Frontier was counting.
Yeah, I was already thinking in the back of my mind that Phoenix would be a dark horse. And perhaps I'm letting my heart go beat a little bit too fast, simply for the story of Liberty coming up and winning the Frontier. But you add an arm like Lolo, and that puts a new stamp on the team without any question. And the Frontier is winnable. The Frontier is has been fairly strong. I have not seen the full listing of what's happened here today, so I need to refresh my brain as far as that goes. But until this sim, the Frontier has been full of pretty good teams, but no just you have to pick this guy to win, right? So I think Sean kind of senses that. I can kind of feel it from the way that he's made some moves beforehand, and this trade is another example. Would not be surprising to see Phoenix definitely in the hunt. But they're going to have to beat Vegas. They're going to have to beat Calgary. Calgary is a strange and wonderful team that Kevin always does something good. I'm excited for Rosenblatt. I'm excited for Austin. Did Austin do anything this sim? Looking down the list.
He was lamenting. He posted on Discord saying he missed out on his targets. Disappointed with his dev lab results too.
Okay.
Questioning whether we should rebuild. I don't know if that was. I don't remember the order whether that was in the context of the trade having already occurred or not. But he's got Phoenix.
Yep.
Even down the snuff now for behind him in the standings as well.
Yeah, that's why they pay him the big Brewster bucks to make those kind of calls. That's an interesting situation. So, um, talk to me about the signings that have occurred on this sim. Who should I look at first? I'm seeing Boise looks like they've picked up a couple of starting pitchers. Maybe start in the Frontier. We've been talking about them. Let's see, definitely see Boise's in there with Witka and Josh Clark. I like Josh Clark. I'm not sure I like him $11 million worth, but I like him.
Yeah, they soaked up a lot of the free agent money demand, I guess, that was left out there on the board. They also added Thomas Turner in a trade.
Oh, that's right.
Division rivals Valencia. So that's 3 veteran starters that got added. They're just trying to piece together a pitching staff. Ben posted kind of an interesting series of team news posts during his hospital stays, which are hiatus there this week.
Yeah, I think if anyone was chomping at the bit for something to happen, Ben wins the trophy on that one, and I can completely understand why. I'm sure it has been a very difficult week or 3 for him. Great relief to know that he's coming out of a fairly dangerous health situation. So kudos to you, Ben. Good luck. But
so this interesting series of posts that he made, kind of like I hadn't really taken a close look at his team from last year, but he's got a good young offensive core lineup. Guys who can hit field and hit. He just had no pitching last year, so he's trying to address that. We'll see. It's a bunch of pitchers in their 30s who seem like they're on the downswing of their careers, but they all had career years.
Yeah, I mean, the Thomas Turner deal was intriguing in the sense that I think Turner is overpaid, but he's not a horrible pitcher. But he's also getting old, so you never know. You never know what's going on. Overpaying somebody is not a horrible problem if the rest of your payroll is in pretty good shape. And as you said, his offense is the Boise offense, the Spud offense can mash a little bit, so that's. There you go. So I was not in scanning through here. I'm not massively surprised to see that Witka and Clark went to Boise. Not is Witka doesn't sound like an horrible overpay at 8.8 million. No, it's not too bad.
He's lumped a little bit. He's got work 6 year in Hawaii, so he's got to turn that trend around.
Yeah, and the Frontier has some offensive-minded parks, so we'll see what happens there. But at the end of the day, pitchers are pitchers, and we've talked about that before. A offensive-minded park can cloak how good a pitcher really is, just because it will bump their numbers up a little bit. But it bumps up the Frontier bumps up batters' numbers too. So, what do you know?
The other team that I felt like made some moves that didn't go under my radar, at least, was Cape Fear. Fear surprised people last year. A huge turnaround year over year. And they've made a couple of trades. They went out and got themselves a shortstop from Madison and Ken Proctor. Can't really hit, but probably one of the 32-ish best shortstops in our universe. So got himself a bona fide starter there. And then made a trade with Atlantic City to get. Oh, well, actually, he sent out Harada in the Atlantic City trade. So that one's kind of interesting. Harada made a pretty big impact a couple of years ago. I think as a rookie, maybe second-year player, and has been on a little more of a downward trend. So got a couple of minor leaguers in that trade. Signed pitcher Sam Butler to a huge extension, 6 years, $75 million. Butler's just been a WAR machine the last few years. Kind of has some weird warts, but war is war, at least in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Some people would disagree with me. And then Antonio Ramirez was a free agent, starting pitcher that was second tier or something, but was one of the better ones left at this point to a 3-year, $24 million deal. So they got themselves another starting pitcher.
Yeah, and I like the 3 years. I think scanning it, to me, that is a bit of an overpay for a 36-year-old, but at 3 years and the third year being a team option, the risk level of that is moderately low. And as you said, the pitching rank, the free agent ranks are getting a little thin at this stage. I do think you're going to find some arms that can fill in roles, but you're not going to find, guys who are going to carry the rotation at this stage. So, a little risky, but it seems like a pretty decent option as far as that goes.
Front loaded.
Right. Yep.
There were quite a few extensions that people were trying to build up on interest to boost the season ticket sales. So we saw Charlotte has handed out a few big extensions. Lawrence Stewart, their catcher, really liked the extension that Nathan got him out 3 years, about $5-ish million a year. That bought out a year or two of free agency, 1 year. That's great cost certainly on a guy who's just been an automatic 3 or 4 war catcher. And Eduardo Moreno, their superstar closer, signed a 5-year extension, $44.5 million. I think he's got the most stuff of any pitcher in our whole universe.
Yep.
Right now. So better be able to lock that up when you've got some budget space and nothing really left in free agency.
Yeah, anytime you do a 5 or 6 year deal, though, you're taking on a particular, you're crossing your fingers over things. So, and a big number for a closer is, as I'm saying this, when Winston Morris gets to his point, yes, but without any doubt, you put a big number on a closer for 5 and 6 years, and walking into it that you've got a bit of a risk as far as that goes. But if any closer is worth it, Moreno certainly appears to be the guy. So
last 2 years are team options, so it's really it's 3 years guaranteed. And the first year's a little
okay,
very very smart.
there you go. Yeah, it would be better if some of these GMs would start making more mistakes. That's all I've got to say about it.
And then Jacksonville handed out a couple of huge extensions, which you talked about last time, I think. And that's kind
Right.
of Aaron's MO. Dan Volsky got a 6-year, $60 million extension. I don't think I'd even heard of that guy when I saw that. I'm admittedly not quite as good at following the Johnson League teams. And then Pepe Aragon, who I did recognize, is a 9-power middle infielder, 6-year, $123 million extension. It's a huge one. We know how valuable middle infielders are.
There you go. Yeah, like I said, Aaron does not ever strike me as somebody who's going to go into free agency and drop a big chunk, but he does strike me as, and has in the past, not been afraid to extend players out. I haven't looked at his finances. I am like you. I'm probably like everyone else in the league. I pay much more attention to our division and then our Frick League. That's where I spend probably 80% of my attention. The other is spread out across the rest of the league, just from a fan and observer standpoint. So I'm not as deep into what Jacksonville's financial situation is, but my guess is that, in fact, looking at him here, I think Jacksonville's 2064 payroll is at 109 right now, so that's what 105 after you sort things out, and then there will be a couple of probably arbs that don't go, so he'll be down around 100. He'll have a little bit of playing room, and after that, it drops down into the low 80s. So that Aaron knows what he's doing. when he puts a big number down, you know he's got some kind of a jigsaw puzzle going on with his salaries.
Ron,
Yep.
how do you see other teams' payrolls?
Right now, I'm just looking down in the Jacksonville front office salaries. It's their basic player by year, right? And then down at the bottom, it has the total. But this is one of my pet peeves. I really wish Out of the Park would actually put one line for the total and one line for the things that are against the salary cap right now, right? If they could just do that, then you could go, okay, well, I get it. But now you have to, he's got 109.1 million is in his 2064 in quotes payroll, but we know that a big chunk of those are going to be in the minor leagues, so that's, 300 and whatever K per each player off, so it's probably 105, give or take a little bit. Blah 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 blah.
The challenge between the off season is that you can have all 40 players in active roster, so the game doesn't really know which ones to put in the minors. You could probably put some sort of assumption in there.
Yeah.
It's just the highest paid 27 players, right?
Yeah, I mean you put anyone who doesn't have an option left, or something like that. There are ways that they could do it to make it more clear what the general situation is. And it doesn't really matter to me because I know what I'm looking at, but I also end up spending a big chunk of time talking to various people who don't actually understand what that line is. Right? And so, to describe it over and over and over again. But blah, 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 blah. It's okay. What else we got? What else? Who else is on your radar screen for these two sims?
Maybe that would have been huge news a couple of years ago. He's lost a little bit on his heater, so to speak. It's Phil Cole. But I really like the deal that Twin Cities got him on. I think Phil Cole's probably an underrated pitcher at this point. And just what we need is Allen getting a good deal. Good veteran pitcher who's pitched in some big games. It reads out as 3 years, 18 million for the last 2 years of both team options.
Yeah, it's a 1 year. It's a 1 year deal. Most likely, it's a 1 year deal. And yeah, that'll be interesting to see what Allen. I saw that Cole had went to Twin Cities, and I didn't know the details. It will be fun to watch what Allen does with him. I ponder whether he will. I'm making an assumption that he will probably throw out of the bullpen, but I ponder what role he will throw out of is what I personally am thinking. His starting rotation is already pretty fair, pretty solid. He's got 6, 1, 2, 5, essentially with Yamashita as a 45. He's 5 to 6 deep with, in quotes, starters right now. But it's a great ad for depth without any question, and it automatically gives Twin Cities injury protection when you've got 7 guys who can start if you need to. And I do just like Cole. Cole has always been one of my favorite guys to watch. So.
He might be 6 stuff as a reliever. That little bump is a 3-pitch starter with 2 dominant pitches. He would be, if he wasn't 38, maybe a reliever conversion candidate, although a lot of people are, I don't know, there's speculation out there around reliever conversions don't work anymore. Do you have any take on that subject?
Actually, that is something that I need to spent some time re-looking at the math. I don't understand. I guess I could see, without having redone the math, the only real question in my mind is, one of those really low numbered, if a pitch is a 3, then it would be down in that zone where the ratings are expanding. So I guess I could see that not doing as well or doing just as well. I don't know. Yeah, it theoretically could be better, but maybe on the top side, if you get a pitch that's up in the 7, 8, 9s, maybe. But then that wouldn't be one that would normally get removed. I don't know. No comment. When I don't know something, I try to say that I think, but I don't know. And in this case, I'm not even sure what I think. So, but it is one of those things. I saw some conversation about it, and I meant to go back and look at the numbers. I just haven't done that yet. The only real concern with Cole is he's still hurt, and so you don't know what he's going to do when he comes back. Right? You don't know what his ratings are going to hold and different things like that. I'm rooting for Cole because, like I say, I like him. I like him as a player. I like his story. I like his movement in and out of Vancouver, and he's just a great story before it's all said and done. So I'm rooting for him. I worry at 38 whether he's going to come back from his surgery and maintain or not. His key driver is that PBA BIP pitcher's BABIP, and as a knuckleballer, he should be good. So I don't know. I would tend to guess that Allen will use him quite well, use him out of the bullpen, and probably push his usage towards pitcher's parks, where he can flex the BABIP skill as best as he can flex it.
You already have your Hall of Fame vote. You need to do anything else?
Oh boy. He's a really interesting one in that sense. I mean, he's got 3 rings, so it's hard not to vote for him. And I don't like to vote based on wins, but he's, 175 and 170. He's like Robin Roberts there, I guess. Maybe he's in just because Robin Roberts is. I don't know. He's definitely an interesting selection at 65 WAR. I believe there are some pitchers in our history who have been at that level and not made it in. But then I don't know if those pitchers have had the Phil Cole story and have 3 rings, and what's he been, a 7-time All-Star. He's probably on my list. He's probably on my ballot. I tend to be a moderately large Hall guy. That said, I'm not sure he would have been on the ballot this year because there are just so many guys. I don't know. That's a.
Hang on for like a couple more years here. Retire.
Yeah.
He's gonna let those guys who are just hanging out in free agency. He'll let those guys retire first.
Yeah.
Class.
Well, I mean, he will definitely, even if he doesn't make the Hall in the first ballot, he will hang on for a long time. So there's a pretty good chance that he'll find a class where he stands out strong enough. I would predict that he will make it into the Hall. I think he would be on my ballot, but I would also say at 65 WAR and in a essentially a 500 record, which wins don't mean anything in predicting what future skills, what future performance is going to be. But wins are a huge story. I love the story of baseball, and I love starting pitchers, and um, wins are better than RBIs in that sense in my brain, whether they really are predictive or not. Because as I say with RBIs, if you had nothing to go on but RBIs, you would pick the guy with the most RBIs. If you had nothing to go on but wins, you'd pick the guy with the most wins. And a lot of the times you would be right. It's just not often enough to, bet your house. So anyway, it doesn't really matter. I like Phil Cole. I think he would be on my list right now. I'd be a lot happier if he were at 70 or 75 WAR, and maybe with Twin Cities and a prudent usage, he can squeak out another 2 years at 2 or 3 WAR apiece, and he'll be up around 71, and he'll look even stronger. And if Twin Cities wins another ring, you got 4 rings.
Alan would take that.
There you go.
All right. Last big contract I want to talk about is in our division. That is Sacramento signing Sakutaro Kawano to a 6-year, $78 million deal. If I remember correctly, no team options involved there. Player options.
Mm-hmm.
That one.
I love it for now. I think it's a really dangerous contract for anywhere from 2 to 4 years from now. Because it is a 6-year. It is a full 6-year contract. He's 34 years old, and he gets a player option at age 40. Unless he is, I do not expect him to be effective past 2065 or 6. He might be, but I would strongly suspect that by age 37 or 38, he may be done by that time. That having been said, Sacramento is already on this edge, and I think Ben, it's a really hard. I think that's a really hard decision. If Kawano comes in, leads them to another division title and into the playoffs over the next 2 years and 3 years, and keeps Sacramento doing what Sacramento does, then this is a worthwhile deal. If things fall on their face and Sacramento doesn't do as well, I think it's going to be an albatross out there in the last at least 2 years of this contract. And so if I had to guess, Sacramento is in pretty good financial shape. If I had to guess, they're going to eat at least 1, if not 2 or 3 years of this contract. And it could still be fine because a big team can afford to just eat it. So at the end of the day, I like it. If it were a lesser team and a team with tougher finances, then I would say that was probably a bad idea. But this is a great example to me of what a behemoth can do. They can take a risk like this for the early front end payoff. That's my take, my hot take on things when it comes to Sacramento. Now, that having been said, I think if Ben does this 2 or 3 more times, then he's going to drive himself into trouble in the future. You can, as a behemoth, you can get away with that once or twice, but even behemoths run out of steam. Does that fit your thoughts? What were your thoughts when you saw that?
It's kind of close to home for me.
I know it.
Sacramento doesn't have a lot of guys signed out beyond 2065.
Mm-hmm.
So that helps the flexibility aspect of it. And Wano is an Iron Man, so you're gonna teach a guy into being a 40-year-old pitcher. Pick an Iron Man over almost any attribute. He's gonna be really good in front of their defense because he doesn't walk anything. everybody, and he doesn't give up home runs. Ballpark is tough to pitch in. It's hard to give up home runs anyways. But by you running down fly balls at center, and all you'll have to go. Then I'll have to go with Kenner at shortstop, who's a really good defender, scooping up all those ground balls that Kawano allows. Kawano could be a 6-4 pitcher for a year or two. When I traded for Kawano, his velocity was falling off the cliff, and it's kind of stabilized, but his stuff is not what it was in his prime.
Mm-hmm.
In San Antonio, it's kind of like a classic stud ace pitcher, whatever you want to call him. And he's just kind of reinvented himself a little bit, and he's just got impeccable control now, and he's still putting up almost the same WAR as he was in his prime as a result of that. It's bad news for us in the short term, like you said, and that was Ben's ultimate assignment, was to keep winning, keep the train going in Sacramento for another year or two, and nobody else in the Pacific is making huge moves. So if it solidifies, then that's the favorite. They were already the favorite, but now it's kind of hard to pick anybody else, I think, in the division. Just seems to be the activity that's going on there.
Yeah, and I think that's probably fair. I would expect, like I say, I think they were the favorite to begin with, although Hawaii, we'll see what happens with Hawaii. They haven't been too aggressive here. I thought James had a little bit more money, but I could be wrong. Maybe he just missed out on some players. Don't know.
The money thing's kind of interesting because a lot of us were complaining about not having any games done.
Mm-hmm.
And Matt with GB heard us, and the depth budget was slashed in half, and the stadium fees were slashed in half. And now I'm just looking over the team payrolls, and there's just a bunch of people with money still to spend, and nobody to spend it on free agency. I think Alan pointed out, like, IFAs might be crazy this year. Yes, you should spend it rather than let your owner take it. You're already maxed out on bonus funds. Most of us are like $70 million. I'm kind of one of those teams now.
Mm-hmm.
Really have a plan on how to spend the extra $10 million I've inherited here. Maybe I'm finally going to have a bonus funds balance. But you're right. He's got money, but there's no pitching left. We can talk about some of the hitters that are left. There's some relievers.
Yeah. One signing that I see that I think is potentially actually two of them. Portland's picked up a couple of pitchers here this sim, I see, in Steve Warren and Ross Brown, starter and reliever, although Warren may end up relieving too, I don't know. Those are interesting picks, interesting signings, because they fit my category of two guys who can actually pitch, but they're not going to put the team on their shoulders and run. And as we've talked about before, I already assumed Portland was going to have a rebound, regress back up past mean season. So I'm not going to discount Portland right now as a potential competitor when push comes to shove. I'm not ready to put all my chips on Portland right now, but I like that. I think I like my gut reaction is I think I like that the Warren and the Braun signing for Portland in our own division. So I don't know what to make of the Pacific this year. Obviously, I was pretty big on the Pacific 2 years ago, and several things have happened this past season that surprised me. I thought that the Pacific would be stronger, and a big chunk of that was Portland dropping off. So if Portland rebounds, this could be another really interesting season inside the Pacific. And I think your San Fernando is still strong. I think you underperformed a little bit. I think Vancouver maybe overperformed a little bit. Hawaii probably overperformed, but is going to be getting better because they're young. So um, I think one reason why you haven't seen as much movement in the Pacific as we have seen in other years is that the teams are already on plan, kind of.
Yeah. Just going back to the Portland side, it's
Mm-hmm.
hard to dislike the ground here. It's really other change, but
Mm-hmm.
they've made a lot of hay off of 40-year-old pitchers the last couple of years. Warren's gonna be like 39. Brown's gonna be like 37. Brown was like -4 pitcher last year. Warren probably not strong at his age and not stamina. I don't know. We'll see. So
Yeah.
they don't really move the needle. I mean, I'm with you.
Yeah. Well, yeah, Warren threw out of the bullpen most of the year last year anyway. So, and he's a solid bullpen guy. And if you have to start him, you can start him, but, you'd probably prefer not to. But I don't know that Portland needs him to start as far as that goes.
I agree with your assessment on the Pacific. Vancouver's pretty young too, and on the way up, and I think the Bessie contract. I hope the jokes. It looks less foolish, I think, than it did like a week ago, just because of the inactivity. Like, good for Vancouver to be in a position to be aggressive this year because nobody else really is being that way. I think you're right. I think you didn't bring up your own team, but I don't know. At some point, having 870 overall relievers is going to be worth something to you. I think. So I think you were in the mix too. We talked a little bit about Lane maybe being able to build a team through creativity, and I think that opportunity is just about past.
Yeah.
About there being any pitching past. So I don't know totally what their plan is. We talked about Valencia is going to be rebuilding, and Greg on the trade block saying he'll take on contracts.
Right.
So,
Yeah. That's. I don't think there's been any change in my mind as far as Valencia is concerned. I tend to agree with you on the Long Beach side. I don't know. Obviously, none of us are in the middle of the Long Beach front office brain trust. I don't know what they have been attempting to accomplish and perhaps striking out on. I mean, like I attempted to bring Molina in and I struck out on Molina. I don't know what Lane's actions have been, but it does not seem to have borne a lot of fruit. So it makes me wonder if perhaps they're going to fall back and look at a plan B and plan C that looks at 2064 and 2065 as the real targets. Maybe they were already kind of there to begin with, but it is Lane's mode of operation to do a mini fire sale and then come back and compete the following year. I just don't yet, at this moment, I don't see the horses lining up in Long Beach or the surfers lining up in Long Beach. The waves coming in. What's the right metaphor? I don't know.
I think you're closer to the ocean than I am. You're in the middle of the desert.
There you go.
Yeah, the smoke. It's got the smoke in here. Oh, at all. On this team, he's probably got some. He did add Emilio Morales too. So he'll slug a little bit. Just going back to like kind of the division look. One thing I see just organizing all the transactions in the division is just general. We see a couple of aggressive divisions and a couple of less aggressive divisions. On the Johnson League side, the arms race in the Atlantic continues. I mentioned some of the things.
Mm-hmm.
Bearded, Charlotte signed some players, Jacksonville locked up some of their players to extensions. New Orleans has signed some pitchers, so they're augmenting their team a little bit. So, just high level, Atlantic, very strong division. Frontier, like you said, a little up for grabs. But a lot of the teams at the bottom half of their standings, a lot of potential. So, easily see the standings invert a little bit there, especially like Phoenix jumping towards the top of the pack.
Mm-hmm.
Heartland, a lot of aggressiveness in Heartland, led by Twin Cities and Louisville. Chicago, still a team that's kind of lurking on the periphery. Des Moines was kind of an underrated team I think last year. They're really good. Jesse probably wants to make one more move or so, but they don't have a ton of financial flexibility.
Yeah, I think Des Moines was underrated last year because they underperformed fairly heavily the year before, right? So that's a recency bias kind of thing. The Des Moines was a really good team in 2061, but didn't show it in the win-loss record. In 2062, they bounced back. Like Portland, I predict Portland is in a similar situation as Des Moines was, or Des Moines was in a similar situation as Portland is, right? So I think that's, I don't think that I'm speaking out of school when I say that I think Jesse was quite disappointed in the Des Moines performance of 2061. So seeing them come back and play well in 2062 wasn't too surprising. What did they do this sim? They've not been as aggressive in the marketplace to my memory as, right. So that actually kind of hurts them a little bit, I think, because in that division when everyone else is, when all the other contenders are building, that makes, if you're a Colonels fan, you have to kind of step back and, scratch your head a little bit, but.
I love that team. I think of like the Colonel in the military first.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, yeah. But I loved Jamie's name for his development lab, the Colonel Popper. That's awesome.
Yeah, I think Chicago underperformed slightly last year too. So that's the reason why I still kind of think they're worth mentioning in that mix. Yellow Springs is is kind of like Austin or San Antonio. There's some teams where it's like, oh, we thought maybe they went out and spent some money, would be in that conversation, but none of those teams are able to hit on their free agent targets. So they all want to get a little more creative. And, players blow up and things can go your way, but it's the way the winds are blowing right now.
Yeah.
They all be behind.
Yeah, I think Rob in particular may be changing his framework when it comes to free agency. And, we're lauding these teams going out and being aggressive and for a good reason. But when you're aggressive, you're taking risk. And, who's to know? Maybe, Louisville went out and spent a whole bunch of money on Akers is only 30 if I remember right, but Brown is getting older. They spent a bunch of money. Brown's arm fall. Brown had a labrum tear at the end of the season before last, so he could get hurt. And if that happens, then Louisville goes back to where they were last year. Yellow Springs is growing. Maybe Rob finds himself. I don't know what Rob has been doing and failing on. Right, he may have been in on several free agents and just not won the day. But sometimes you think you do that and you think, oh crap. I wanted Molina. It could well be that the first week of the season, Molina goes out and blows his arm out, and suddenly I go, thank God I missed that. Right. So that's the fun part of free agency. We're completely. Right, we're completely betting on what's going to happen in the future at this stage, and that makes it risky and fun. So,
they'll probably, I think Rob's also taking like kind of stack a few extra wins each season type
Mhm.
approach. I can see them just doing that naturally, and then to your point, it's Des Moines or it's Louisville or somebody swings and misses, or the evolution of the NFL season, just have to wait another year in Brewster time. That's several months in our real world.
That is true. But just to be blunt, I do not see Yellow Springs doing much this year unless they can find some way to patch together more pitching. And the free agent market is clearly not going to be the kind of place at this stage where Yellow Springs is going to be able to create a top third pitching staff, right? That's not going to happen.
Yeah, I don't get the sense that like the trade market is going to be too hot over the next few months of simulation time either, unless some of these teams we're talking about just decides they're going to like Austin or Long Beach. And some of these teams already have at mid-season sold off players, so there's not like a ton to trade. I don't see anybody really building a team for trades at this point. There's not enough cash strapped teams either with some of the financial changes, where they're like up at the right up at the payroll maximum, and they have to just sell guys off just to be able to sign draft picks or be able to add with the player or whatever it is.
Yeah, probably not for the level of player you're talking about. I mean, that's one of the things that makes the low trade so interesting is that as a top flight, top flight pitcher, but that situation is moderately unique. I don't think you're going to find too many true number ones. I mean, top 15 pitchers moving anytime soon. And when I'm looking at Yellow Springs, I mean, they need, 3 serious starting pitchers. I mean, at least 2 serious starting pitchers. And you're going to have a hard time in order to compete, in order to say, hey, we're looking at winning a division. They need at least 2 and probably 3 fairly serious starters. And I don't see that happening on the trade market. They might be able to find a way to grab one, but I wouldn't even, if I were for my general management style, I would not be willing to pay the kind of prospects that I would need to get a real top one at this stage of the game. Now, get into June and suddenly your team is really hot, then you can change that dynamic. So, but I think Rob has a pretty strong flavor of what he's going to do at this stage. I will say that I feel like Yellow Springs has a serious plan for the first time in a while. I think Rob has been fairly consistently having a plan and then changing it a year later. Now it feels like he's on a let's chunk through these things. So we'll see what happens. He's got a little bit of time to play with.
And maybe he'll turn up a pitcher or two or some of these pieces in the Rule 5 draft. So that's the big next thing coming up in the league. It might be a little less active than it's been in the past because so many free agents have signed soon. So there's less 49 spots that'll be available. A lot of times teams are still waiting on their free agent offers, and so they put a flyer in the Rule 5 draft and they get their guy. Free agent offer. So I think we might see a low number of players drafted this year compared to where we've been in recent years. But I think there'll be some talent out there, and we'll all be scouring over that pool over the next night or two before we export sim.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what happens. There's a couple of spots that I personally, as Bikini, am looking to see what I can find to help out at a couple of different places. Usually I am not personally looking to pull out of the, pull talent out of the Rule 5 area. Usually I have things lined up in that way. I tend to lose more players than I get before that's all said and done. That having been said, I am deeply interested. I think this is the first year of a transitory time period. You're going to see more younger players available, but at this, the interesting dynamic is we're going to see more younger players available, and I think I'm going to guess you'll see a little more movement than it sounds like you're thinking. But with the young players that are available, you offset that with the fact that the teams are also filled with more young players coming up. So I don't know how that is really going to balance out. I think this year will be a kind of canary in the mine, in the mine shaft thing. We'll get a feel for things. I'm kind of expecting the next 2 years will be the most wild when it comes to Rule 5 stuff, but I don't know how to weigh it because, like I said, for Bikini, for example, I've got a lot of young players coming up. So if it weren't for the fact that one or two of the guys that I had in my plan have fallen off, I probably wouldn't really even be looking at a Rule 5 selection unless something just perfectly fit, but run time another year or two, and a lot of my young players who have been up are moving out into the late part of arbitration and getting to be more expensive than they're worth. Then suddenly I'm more interested in a young Rule 5 player who'd come in and give me a year or two while I'm waiting for a prospect to come in. So, I just don't know. Every team is in a different situation. You look at we talked about Long Beach and Valencia, right? Two teams who are struggling. Shoeless in Brooklyn. Those could be very major Rule 5 buyers. San Antonio, a week ago or so, I was looking at San Antonio, and the problem that I worry about for San Antonio is money. Which makes me wonder whether they would be interested in Rule 5 as a source for a cheap, workable player, right? To augment some of the guys that they already have coming up. San Antonio seems to be right on the edge of doing some things. You talked about Austin and Chuck commenting on Discord. Austin, it piques my, tweaks my spider sense to wonder whether Austin is going to be a fairly big buyer in Rule 5. So, all it takes is for 6 or 8 teams to want 3 guys apiece, and suddenly you've got a large volume of players moving, right?
Yeah, 40-man slots are a lot of times most. You can't take a player unless you have one.
Right.
Omaha's another team that can see taking a bunch of players.
Mm-hmm.
They their house a little bit last year. They have a few pretty good players. Supporting cast. And then Jim in New Orleans is usually a guy who takes a few players.
There you go.
I plan on taking 3 players, I think. One more guy on the 37. Usually fill out my list. Usually I have one at the spot or something. But honestly, I just pick players. Otherwise,
Yeah.
I usually take as many picks as spots that I have.
Yeah. There's no downside to it. Right. Right. There's no downside to it.
Bikini, kind of an interesting spot, Ron. Not much committed. I feel like we're in similar spots. I'm like, you might have a little more talent right now, but I'm also pretty inactive this offseason. You think at this point you're just going to kind of roll into the year, kind of see what happens, and then course mid of the year if things are going your way?
Yeah, right now, I've got a few different things. Like I said, there's a couple of positions I would like to upgrade. but I'm not expecting to upgrade them with top third talent. I believe my team overperformed 2 years ago and fairly heavily underperformed this year. The question, I was not very happy to lose John Brown. I would have liked to have had him back. But I've got a couple of guys in the minor leagues and questioning whether Nelson Williams will be able to step in and take John Brown's innings. And if that happens, then we're actually better off because Williams is cheap. The worst case is I can't make a lot happen. And we should make a good, if I can't make a lot happen, even with our relatively weak fan interest, I should make a good chunk of money. And so I will push cash up into my bonus funds finally. If I had cash up in my bonus funds right now, we would have been talking a totally different position that I would have been taking on this free agency, but I just did not have the money to do anything due to our what I consider to be odd performance last year. But that's neither here nor there at this stage. I think Bikini right now, unless something falls in my lap, is most likely going to focus. I mean, we're going to look a lot like we look right now. Even if I add a player or two that I'm generally kind of interested in, it's not going to make national news is not going to come to a standstill. But I mean, I think we're a good team. We're not a great team. We're a good team, and stranger things can happen. And if nothing else, I should come out of this year with a very solid financial standing. I'm getting really frustrated dealing with crappy finances. So if we do nothing else but get decent finances and don't crash any more on our fan interest, then I think going forward, I will feel like we could actually build. I'm feeling angsty. I would like to be building toward a much better team, but I just need the cash. I need the revenue stream, and I need I am lucky enough to have a good chunk of very young players coming up that should be cheap enough that I can deal with a moderate revenue stream, and I don't need a behemoth revenue stream if those guys come up. So I'm hoping for the best in 2063, but I'm really looking at 2064 and 2065 as the time when Bikini can begin to be a real player.
I don't think I've proposed right of the future as we keep that's been my thoughts for my team. Similar spot. We'll have to throw the chips out there next year. We're good. Maybe we buy. Otherwise, kind of make some money next year.
There you go.
You were saying, looking at your team, like a drop off from Jimenez or Mellet would put you in kind of a tight spot. I actually like Tana, so I actually kind of like the number two catcher.
Yeah, I'm not worried about Jimenez.
I'm not sure who you'd put it second if Mellet drops off.
Yeah, and that's the reason that I was debating whether I was going to even offer Mellet, but I don't have anybody to take his slot right now, and I wasn't convinced I was going to be able to do anything in the middle infield. So we went ahead and extended him extended him and took his what was supposed to be a popular signing, but didn't move the needle. But at the end of the day, I think he's a workable second baseman. I don't think he's going to crash and burn. I just don't think he's going to be the star that I hoped that he was going to be, 2 years ago. His the development engine has not been kind to him over the past year or two.
Hasn't been the page in a little while.
Yeah. But, I mean, he's workable. And his defense has gotten good enough that he's not a hole. So that's positive. But yes, if we run into problems with him, then I don't have a really viable, mid-range league average plus backfill. And that's been the reason why when Bikini has been good and when Bikini has been bad, the reason is that we're filled with lots of players who are kind of league average, right? And so if they all pull together, we do really well, and if they fall back, then we struggle. So
Well, there's a future where War Boys
well,
side too. Sorry to be them down there.
no, that would be. I have a great deal of expectation for War Boys. I don't know that I like him as much as you seem to like him. I kind of view him maybe a half a rung lower than you do when I hear you talk about him. But he's young, and there's a not unlikely chance that he could bump a little bit again. And if he does, then yeah, I think he's a borderline elite kind of guy. I think he's a very good pitcher right now. Probably a mid 2 to high 3, maybe a high 2. I don't know. We'll see what happens next year.
Think about 22-year-old pitchers.
Yeah, you don't know. Like I say, I don't want to sandbag him. I mean, I like him a whole lot. I'm really glad that we have him on the team. But we'll see what he does next year. He was good, not great last year.
Do you have any other topics you want to cover?
No, I think we pretty well we've talked ourselves around the whole league before it's all said and done. I'm very interested and excited to dig into the details of this. It sounds like lots of good things have happened here today, and happy to have the league back. Happy to have the league running back along. So I think we should probably call this one an episode.
Sounds good.
Alrighty, well, thanks for your time here tonight, and good luck with you and your wife going forward. Now that the kid has been given the green light to go, all fingers crossed. Hope for lots of good healthy people over the next whatever time it is. So I'm thinking about you. Good luck.